Shalom Israel. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh by Hashem Shai by Hashem HaKadosh. The ones of the apostles, and else great millstone for teaching us this true peace and blessings to the hope like of Israel. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Hebrew, by Hashem is the name, and Yahweh Shai is the name of the unbegotten Son. Back in our lesson, and I've seen the title, World War III will be a reality. And I came across this post right here, was wanting to make a quick lesson going into it because a World War III is approaching, it's at the door. And this is why you're seeing tensions between these nations, conflict continuing to break out. And all this is through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai, because the Lord is the one that's stirring that pot between these nations, all in order to reach that boiling point, which is going to be World War III. And it will especially be by the way of thermonuclear missiles. Or, going to this destruction, this judgment, that's coming to this place. Will be by the way of, thermonuclear fire. But it says President Trump warns monster nukes could end the world tomorrow. It's the world's biggest threat. So let's see if
But then earlier you said
that has to say right there, and read a little bit more into this post and get an article and get a few scriptures, and the Lord's lesson will be edifying into the point.
But then earlier you said you wanted to cut $1 trillion in defense spending, right?
I didn't say I was.
You did not going to. So I was like, which is it? Are you cutting defense spending, or are you building us up?
I never said defense spending.
Okay, because I think you were talking about denuclearization,
Correct.
and that's where the cutting of the spending came in.
I never said cut. No, it's not in these days. I'd love to cut defense spending, but not now, because you have China, you have Russia, you have a lot of problems out there. No.
In fact,
no. What I have said is, we spend a lot of money on nuclear missiles, nuclear weapons. The level of destruction is beyond anything you can even imagine. It's just bad that everybody has to spend all this money on something that if it's used...
That's right. We're going to go into, that destruction. That's coming to this place, man.
When I listen to these climate lunatics and they talk about global warming, and they say the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch in the next 300 years, and,
But then early.
I don't think we need to, listen more. Let's read this caption. It says, President Trump warns monster nukes could end the world tomorrow. It's the world's biggest threat, saying it poses a much more significant danger than climate change, according to U.S. President. And it says, Donald Trump told reporters on Thursday that he is in favor of denuclearization among global powers. But, there's nothing, he can do to stop, World War III. I believe there's an article, going into that. How he's want to, try to stop it or something to that effect, which I believe made a lesson, going into it. But it says it would be great if everybody would get rid of their nuclear weapons. I know Russia and U.S. have by far the most. Trump said China will have an equal amount within 4 to 5 years. It would be great if we could denuclearize because the power of nuclear weapons is crazy. Hiroshima, is a good example. You had people's, shadows casted upon walls. Now imagine, the things that they have now. So also going to show just how devastating, this destruction is really going to be. And why you do not want to be on the receiving end of this judgment that Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai is getting ready to unleash upon this place, man. You guys get throughout multiple scriptures, going to, Isaiah 34, the sword being bathed in heaven. Jeremiah 50 also, speaks of those arrows. And no scripture, 2nd Ezra is also, I think, 16 and 9. Going into it. Mentions those arrows being shot from one end of the earth to the whole other side. Revelation is the 6th chapter. Going into the stars falling from heaven. All of it speaking of the same thing, man. Going to those missiles. But I have an article to go, I guess, a little bit more in depth into this. Just read a little bit and get a couple scriptures. But it says, Donald Trump speaks on the dangers of monster nukes, claims they are a bigger threat than climate change. As user President Donald Trump recently highlighted the scale of destruction that nuclear weapons have the potential to cause, saying that they pose a far greater threat to humanity than climate change. Though emphasizing the ever-present existential, if I'm saying that correctly, threat, he said monster nuclear arms could easily destroy the world the very next day. And this is what that great destruction is going to be by the way of, man, this judgment. By the way of that thermonuclear fire, man. The first death was by the way of water, going to that great flood. And the second death will be by the way of fire, man. And specifically thermonuclear fire. To add on top of that, you're going to have chariots beaming people down, turning people into dust, shooting those laser beams, man, the contrary beams of fire. So great destruction and judgment is coming to this place, man. And and the Lord put the spirit on these devils to create, this type of weapon, ultimately for their own destruction, man, for their own demise. Now, Donald Trump on nuclear stockpiles. The greatest threat is sitting on the shelves in various countries called nuclear weapons. And I'm going to read this last bit right here, and I'll get the scriptures. It says, called nuclear weapons that are big monsters that can blow your heads off for miles and miles and miles. Excuse me, Trump said while appearing on Fox News and yada, yada, yada. But let's get these scriptures at hand. Because going back to the title, World War III will be a reality. And yes, it will happen in our lifetime. And you have people wanting to deny, really because, they're scared, they're afraid. Saying, it's not going to happen in our lifetime, you don't know what you're talking about, you're crazy, and so on. But you know the prophets have warned you, man. Because United States 2, the Lord has set up watchmen, prophets among you to do so. Now it's in Matthew chapter 24, verse 3 through 8, and it says, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us when shall these things be, and what should be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world. Now, so list off many of those end time signs that we would see now take place before Lord Yahushua will return. Verse 4, and Yahushua answered and said to them, take heed that no one deceive you, for many shall come my name, saying, I'm anointed, and shall deceive many. And so you to be careful, wary of who you are listening to and who you are learning from, especially as of late. A lot of these false prophets are being exposed, for who they really are, especially for who they really serve, man. It's obviously not Yahweh Shah, but themselves. A lot of these guys sold out, took the bag, so they already got their constellation, they got their prize. A lot of these guys pushing, promoting false doctrine, really trying to keep you here, So that's why you get Malachi 3:18, discern between who served the Most High and who served them not. Now verse 6, which is the main point. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. And that's what we're seeing. Tensions and conflict continuing to break out. And as you know, tensions can only get so high. That's why I brought up the point. It's going to reach a boiling point, man. To where that lid will pop off. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. You be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but it is not yet. For a nation shall rise against a nation, and kingdom, and shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So also going to these judgments the Lord bring upon this place, via these plagues, these pestilences, these storms. Verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Now, the NLT version, it goes to the beginning of those birth pains. This is just the beginning, man. As Revelations 11 and 14, and says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quick. Now, what that second woe is speaking of the Second World War. And I would think the third woe is speaking of the Third World War. And guess what? It's approaching quickly, fast. And that's why you're seeing this tariff situation building. All these, allied nations are not thinking of America in a kind light. That's also another thing. You're going to have many of these, allied nations turn against Babylon. And that's also in the scriptures. Now, the 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10, to further go into this destruction now be by the way of those thermonuclear missiles. Because once again, World War III will be a reality, or also known as Armageddon. Now it says, but the day of the Lord comes as a thief in the night. Unexpected to those that are not watching, those that are not paying attention, those that are not seeking the Lord. So you can also get another scripture in Revelation 16 and 15. Also mentions how the Lord comes as a thief in the night, and it says, blessed is he that watcheth. Many of our people are not paying attention whatsoever. You really could care less for this thing, man. So when it comes knocking, it's going to be far too late when you're wanting to get your things ready. But the day of the Lord comes as a thief in the night, in which the heaven shall pass away with great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Now, what type of weapon or thing can emit that type of heat where it's able to melt the elements? Especially people, man, which you get in Zechariah, the 14th chapter. And it goes into this devastating destruction, man. You're going to have people literally being vaporized. Once you can imagine what they have now. Brought that point dealing with Hiroshima, how you had people's shadows casted upon walls. And that was, so many years ago. Now imagine the things they have. Now it says, in which the heaven shall pass away with great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, the earth also and the workers therein shall be burned up. Isaiah 95 also going to show what this war is going to be by the way of. Because this is not going to be your average war. Because, once you have people say, it's never going to happen, this and that. Well, as we can read here, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Good example is the movie 300, or these old, war movies where you have people, clashing with shields and swords, roaring on the battlefield. But watch this. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. What do you think this is speaking of right here, man? You can also get in Jeremiah 50 in the 25th verse. Goes to how Lord is going to open up his armory. What do you think that is speaking of? Because you get in the scriptures how Lord has given this devil the knowledge to create the thermonuclear missile, the waster to destroy. Now let's get a few more, and we'll clear it out from there. So Isaiah chapter 34 and 1 through 5. As the coming nations do hear and hearken, ye people that there hear, and all that is in the world, and all things that come forth of it. Verse 2, for the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them, he hath delivered them to the slaughter. Verse 3, the slain also shall be cast down, the stink shall come out of the carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood, going to show this judgment. Verse 4, more than the point for here, and all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and the heavens being rolled together as a scroll, speaking of the mushroom cloud, being formed from those explosions. And all their hosts shall fall down, as a leaf falls off from the vine, as a falling fig from the fig tree. Verse 5, main point. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea. In other words, for Esau, even upon the people of my curse, the judgment. So that sword is speaking of those missiles, man. Which we can also get in Revelation, the 6th chapter. This is Revelation 6 and 13, and it says, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. So once again, speaking of the same thing, man, as well, they brought up that point earlier, dealing with those arrows. What regular arrow can be shot from one place on earth until all to the side? You tell me. Also, that shaking of a mighty wind going to those shock waves, man. This is Zechariah chapter 14 and 12. Going to show this devastating judgment, destruction that's coming to this place, especially upon its inhabitants. And that's why it's important to fear the Lord, man, because as brother read right here in Zechariah 14 and 12, and this shall be the plague wherewith the Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet. And their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. A good example is that one movie, Terminator, one of the older ones. I believe done with Sarah Connor, if I'm correct. It was her name, but she was holding on to that gate in that particular scene. And you have a nuke, go off in the background, and you see her skin literally being burned away. Then you see her skeleton. So just an example, man, of this coming destruction, this judgment that is ahead, that is fastly approaching, man. And that's about the point in being a lesson. Do not be on the receiving end of these judgments that the Lord's trying to bring out, man. Especially one of the greatest judgments, man, via those thermonuclear missiles. And then you have that saying, you're saving the best for last. Now, the second Ezra chapter 9, verse 1 through 4. Main point I want is the first verse, but just read the whole thing also. Now it says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. Now, how do you measure the time? To remember about these signs and these prophecies. And we're near the end of this place, man. Seeing the wars, the rumors of wars, the tensions between these nations, the conflict that's breaking out, especially dealing with everything else, man. Seeing these plagues, these pestilences, these signs within the heavens. The times are clear. He answered me then and said, measure all the time diligently in itself, and thou see signs pass which I told thee before. Then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time when the highest begins to visit the world which he made, which can be by the way of the Lord Yahweh Shai, verse 3. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and upwards of the people in the world, then shalt thou understand that the Most High spake those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. And what's it? We're doing then. And the last scripture would be Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. Now it says, for the vision as yet for an appointed time, but then shall speak and not lie, that would tarry wait for it, because it surely come, it will not tarry, meaning it will not delay. And what is that vision speaking of? These signs, these prophecies, and we're in those appointed times, man. The times are clear. So those that have not sought the Lord now, already, yeah, you better seek the Lord. Because how about especially getting ready to take away this word, this truth? You're off the highways and byways, off the internet, to where you won't be able to obtain it any longer. So seek the Lord now, because you do not want to be part of this destruction that is coming, man. But that's the point right there. Like I said, came across that post. Wants to make a quick update, going into it, because once again, World War III is fastly approaching. So take heed. I do close out. Give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Kakadash, and Shalom. See you next one, Lord's will.